Coming off the back of a very, let's go with interesting Monaco Grand Prix last week, we head now to the sunny country of Spain and Barcelona Catalunya. What's going on, guys? Welcome back. We're here for hopefully another exciting weekend of Formula One. I don't think it could have gotten much worse going into the Spanish Grand Prix weekend, which I know always leaves a bit of an awkward, weird place in the F1 fandom. But I think following the Monaco Grand Prix, I think anything would be better than that. So we're going to here to make our predictions for what is going to happen this weekend. We're going to talk our biggest positive surprise, our biggest disappointments, our qualifying top three, our race podium, and then we'll round things out with our one crazy prediction. I can't wait. Triple headers are, I think, perfect for me because you just get back-to-back-to-back weekends and then you get a nice little break. I'm sure the teams are ready for a break themselves, but at the same time, I love seeing cars on track, and let's go ahead and let's jump on into it because I'm tired of waiting and I'm excited to talk about what's going to happen. Let's go ahead and get things started with our biggest positive surprise, and you'll notice a theme over the course of these predictions because I am here to secure points no matter what. I need to have another good weekend, so we are taking a little bit of the easy road this time. I'm going to try and get creative when I can, but at the same time, I need to get some easy points this weekend, and I think it's coming home because I need a solid weekend to try and close the gap to Sinel. I have second place, but it's only by a hair, with one total point separating P2 through 4 in the championship. So a good solid result here might secure me P2 and put me back in the fight for P1 in our championship. But it all starts with our biggest positive surprise, and I don't think this is going to be a shocker to anyone. I'm going with Mercedes. Coming off of their worst weekend in the 2025 season, where we saw both drivers and Toto Wolff extremely frustrated over the course of 78 laps of Monaco, I think there's only nothing but up for Mercedes going from here. We've seen George hover around or on the podium all season long. Kimi Antonelli has been a very consistent mainstay in the top 5 as well, so I think it's going to happen again here soon. We saw Mercedes also perform here very well last season, and so I think it's going to be a bit of a litmus test for Mercedes going forward, where I refuse to believe they'll have a weekend like they did last time out, and effectively just getting back, even if it's back to where they were, will be a good surprise for them as they continue to march on trying to secure the best position they can in the championship. As we march on now to our biggest disappointment, if you haven't already, subscribe down below. We'd really love to have you join our little community here. We love chatting about F1 and all things motorsports as well. So we would love to have you. And as well, go ahead and leave your predictions for what's going to happen this weekend down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys think is going to happen and see who can really, call it like they see it the best. So let me know. I'd love to see it. But let's go ahead, without further ado, jump into our biggest disappointment. And as much as it pains me to say it, I don't think it's realistic to kind of, expect too much from the team following a very, very good result last week in Monaco. Esteban Ocon, unfortunately, coming off of Haas's best performance yet in Monaco as a team, I don't know if, Catalunya is just not going to be what our car is for. I think we've done very, very well at very specific types of tracks, and at the same time, we've really struggled in a lot of traditional tracks as well. So I think it's going to be a very interesting weekend. And while we saw Esteban finish P7 in Monaco, I think this might be another back to where we're seeing for a little bit of time, seeing Haas really, really struggle. Now, they might bring a lot of upgrades. I don't know yet. I haven't seen any of those reports. So maybe they'll bring some stuff to really settle the car down and they can really start to move the car forward this season. They've had a very decent start to the year, but I would love to see a bit more consistency across the team. Unfortunately, I think Esteban might just fall back in the pack a bit here, and it pains me to say it as a Haas fan, but I think Esteban Ocon, you are my pick for biggest disappointment this weekend. Let's go ahead and move on to qualifying top 3, and you'll notice a bit of a theme with this one as well, where I've kind of taken the reverse tact with Oscar Piastri that I did with Lando Norris last time. I think Oscar might be pushing a bit too hard right now, and coming into the final week of a triple header, I'm wondering if we'll see a bit of a bounce back for a couple of teams who might be bringing upgrades, as well as some teams who might have underperformed going through Monaco as well. So I think this could be just one of those weekends that kind of gets away from Oscar, and he'll be ready for a week off before coming back for the Canadian Grand Prix in a couple of weeks. And so I guess that's a spoiler already, but no Oscar Piastri in my top 3, so get excited for that. But we'll go ahead and begin in P3 for my qualifying top 3, and I'm going with George Russell in this one. I basically exactly what I said in biggest positive surprise. I think we see a bounce back week from George. Mercedes went very, very well around here in 2024, so I think we'll see a good bounce back performance from George. We also last year saw him make that ultimately amazing move at the end of lap 1, going around all the way around the outside of Lando and Max to take the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix. So I think Mercedes do pretty well around here, and I think we'll see a bounce back weekend from George, and I think it begins in P3 in qualifying for the Spanish Grand Prix. As we move on now to P2, and this is a team which is reportedly, as of right now, bringing a big load of upgrades to the car. That is going to be Red Bull, and specifically Max Verstappen. I know I went with Max on pole for Monaco, and while it just didn't really work out, he still secured a solid result, so I'm not too mad about it. Call it going back to a main style dedicated circuit, as well as a bunch of upgrades that are hopefully going to settle the car down for him. I think we could see potentially a good result for Max as well, back on the podium, challenging for a win, right where I'm sure he would love to be. But that only leaves pole position P1 in qualifying. I'm back. I guess I have to be. Lando Norris, who actually took pole last year in the McLaren, now leading the way through on the in the Papaya car, which is definitely the best on the grid. So I think I would expect Lando to do very well around here once more. The real question is going to be around these technical directives that are coming in. Obviously, we've heard a lot about these flexi wings and things going on with that. So will that make a difference? Time will tell. All I know is, as of right now, before we obviously see any running, is that McLaren have the best car. Lando took pole last week, took the win last week, and took pole here last year. I'm sure he's going to be carrying a lot of confidence forward into Spain, and I have no reason to believe he shouldn't do it again. So there you have it, my top 3, a George Russell P3, Max Verstappen P2, Lando Norris pole position. Let's go ahead and move forward to our race podium, and this one I think is going to get very interesting because following the logic of my qualifying to race podium predictions would lead to a very interesting moments in the race, to say the least. We'll begin in P3, and I'm going with Oscar Piastri in P3 for the Spanish Grand Prix. Now this one I think is partly the way just because I do think McLaren will still have the fastest car and will have really good pace. And I think this is going to be an instance where I almost just can't leave Oscar off of the podium, at least after not predicting him in the top 3 in qualifying. I think Oscar has shown a lot of really good pace this year, and that car under him should definitely warrant a podium. So I might be hedging my bets here a little bit, but that's what we're going for. Oscar Piastri, P3 in Spain. As we move on now to P2, in this one I think I'm going for massive points with my biggest positive surprise, George Russell, P2 in Spain. This is entirely on vibes and trying to, really this is where I'm trying to cook a little bit. I think a George Russell P2 here is more than on the cards, depending on exactly what we see happening behind, potentially also with Max. I think Mercedes, like I said, did very well around here last season with Hamilton ending up on the podium, and I believe George Russell was also in the top 5 as well. So we've seen George do very well. He'll be very motivated to get back on the right side of the bubble and potentially on the podium again. So George Russell, P2, and that leaves the winner of the Spanish Grand Prix, Lando Norris. I think this might just be one of those instances where if Lando can just get into clear air, that McLaren should carry him forward very, very nicely. And ultimately, if there's some scrapping behind, like my predictions seem to insinuate, I think we could see a very solid and convincing win from Lando here. Now, that said, if he does get mixed up in, battles for the lead, get maybe a little bit of contact, who really knows? But having to, believe what I believe and know what I know about right now, going into the weekend, I think there's no reason we shouldn't see Lando take pole position and convert it into back-to-back wins, which would show him taking the lead in the World Drivers' Championship. Last but not least, my one crazy prediction. We're back to some qualifying team predictions. I have just a feeling going into this one, especially considering the drivers and the teams and the what's happened last year versus now. I'm going with a team prediction in qualifying, and I am predicting a Sauber double Q2 appearance this weekend. I think Nico Hülkenberg should definitely be good enough to get it into Q2, and surprisingly enough, Sauber actually performed pretty decently last year here in Catalunya as well. And so I think this could be an instance, especially going to a dedicated racetrack, no more of these street circuits, allowing the drivers to really free themselves up mentally to really push and show the pace they have. This is a track that even Gabriel Bortoleto has driven at before, so he should have experience. Nico Hülkenberg, obviously being on the grid as long as he has, definitely has experience here. There's something in the air here. They haven't done it so far in 2025, and I think it all begins this weekend in Spain, where a double Sauber Sauber Q2 appearances on the card. Now, is that going to come true? I'm not entirely sure. I think both drivers would love to see a very, very good results. Obviously, last week, Hulk was caught in that Albon-Williams terrain and nothing could really happen. And Bortoleto obviously was involved with that run-in with Kimi Antonelli on lap 1, effectively kind of really pushing him down the order and kind of ruining his race from the jump. So I think both of them are really going to enjoy having a nice, clear, open racetrack to really show what they can do. And I think both of them have the pace to do it. So there you have it, a double Sauber Q2 appearance in qualifying. Guys, there we have it. Another week on the books. The last week of this triple header before a couple of weeks off. I guess a week off before Canada, but that's besides the point. Spanish Grand Prix this weekend. I hope you're excited for it. I know I am. Only a few days away before practice gets underway. I, for one, cannot wait to see it. I will actually be out of town, so the setup is going to be looking a little different for my reaction video when it's all said and done. Stay tuned for that. It'll be probably a pretty quick one. But we have to get to the weekend before we can do that. I appreciate it if you made it this far into the video. Leave a like rating. It would really help me out. And, guys, it's going to wrap it up for me here in this one. I'll see you guys in the next one.